Are you a mother, father, or you are involved in caring for children? If yes, then listen to Ask the Pediatricians every Thursday by 10 a.m. for insightful discussion on popular child health topics such as dangerous child health practices, immunization, infant feeding, developmental milestones, and so much more. You also get to ask questions on these topics and listen to answers to real-life child health issues by a pediatrician. Ask the Paediatricians Foundation is devoted to health education and information of parents and caregivers of children in the community to support you in raising healthy children. Don't miss Ask the Paediatricians with Dr. Gbemi because it's informative, educative, and interactive. Ask the Paediatricians Hour, the program for caring parents.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Ask the Pediatrician Hour. This program is brought to you by Ask the Pediatricians Foundation. We are a charity registered in Nigeria, and we are committed to the health and welfare of all children globally, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, where most of our children are still dying from preventable causes. So welcome today, and today is a special edition, and because it's our 9th anniversary. Yay! We've been doing this for 9 years, trying to support parents in raising healthy children, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, where majority of our children has dying from preventable and treatable causes. And so today I'm going to be talking to us again and reminding us on how we can raise healthy children in this century. Again, this is a revisiting of something we've always talked about, but because it is our anniversary and Ask the Pediatricians Foundation, our mission is to ensure that no child dies from preventable causes. We're committed to promoting the health and welfare of all children globally, but especially in areas where we're needed the most, which is in sub-Saharan Africa. And so today I'm going to be talking to you about this information that we already know, these facts that we know already, but unfortunately a lot of our children are still dying because these facts are not being implemented. And we are all stakeholders. I know sometimes we always think that the government have to do everything, they have to make the policy, they have to implement it. But I found out that we mothers, we the carers of the children, we the fathers, we are very important, because no matter how much policies, no matter how much provision the government make, if we as individuals, as the carers and the parents of our children, we don't engage with this, then those dreadful figures and statistics, they are not going to go down. And actually, this is what motivated me to start Ask the Pediatrician about 9 years ago. It's about engaging the important stakeholders that have often been neglected, that were often not present when the governments are making the decision, and they think, oh, we just make all the decision, we know what to do, we know how to bring down the deaths of children, and yet the deaths are still staring us in the face. And that's because you, as the important stakeholders, most times are not present, and nobody is often talking to us. And that is what we do on ATP. We try to bridge the gap. We try to give parents information, education on how to raise elder children. We used to call them child survival strategies. Now we call them child survival action. It's just the same thing. Basically, what are those things? What are those things we should be doing? What are those information we need to ensure that any child born is able to live to their fifth birthday and eventually live to adulthood and not die, because a lot of our children are dying. And the way we group countries is how much of the children are dying. And I'm so sad to say Nigeria, we currently have the highest number of child deaths among children under the age of 5. and that is a statistics that it should not be it should not be happening. And we on ATP, that is what we are committed. We're looking forward to that day when that statistics will be changed, where it will actually become zero. Okay, where no child that is born will die from things that are completely preventable. I'm just going to give us a little bit of background information. In 2019, 5.2 million children under the age of 5 died. 5.2 million in 2019, in just 1 year. 5.2 million children all over the world under the age of 5 died before their 5th birthday. And the majority of the children are actually children age 1 to 11 months. So children under the age of 1 year. So when we say children under the age of 5, the majority of children who are actually dying is the ones below the age of 1 year. So they are about 1.5 million. So out of 5.2, 1.5, that is almost like 25, almost 30% of them were children below the age of 1 year. And what is painful to us, what is painful to me as a pediatrician, is that these children died not from cancers, not from things that we cannot do something about, not from even COVID or HIV. Of course, they could be part of the causes, but majority of the children died from things that are preventable and things that are treatable. So we're talking about needless preventable deaths. So children died from things that we should not have killed them. Children are dying from malaria, they're dying from pneumonia, they're dying from diarrhea. These are conditions that we can treat. These are conditions that we can prevent. So why should children, 5.2 million children below the age of 5, why should they be dying from conditions that we can treat and that we can prevent? This should not be happening. And it is all of us that have to get up, as we are doing on Ask The Paediatricians Foundation. You are also important to make sure to join us in reducing and almost eliminating all these preventable deaths. Of course, we know people can still die from things that, difficult to prevent, but those are very minimal cases. Majority of our children, 5.2 million children all over the world, died from things that are preventable and things that are treatable. I really want every parent, everybody listening to me, to understand that information, that these 5.2 million deaths are not necessary. Our children below the age of 5 should not be dying. Our children below the age of 1, and 1.5 million of them should not be dying from preventable deaths. And the statistics got worse. And among these children that died, 1.4 those from the age group of 1 to 4, about 1.3 million. So 1.5 are those children below the age of 1 year. And the newborn babies, children under the age of 28 days, so neonates, 1 month old babies, they accounted for 2.4 million. That is almost 50% of those deaths. That is even worse. So we're talking about 5.2 million children under the age of 5, and then you begin to bring it down. 1.5 million were children below the age of 1 year. Then when you narrow it down further, 2.4 million were newborn babies. These children have not even lived for 1 year. I mean, they've not lived up to their first birthday. They've not lived up to their first month, and they have died already. So newborn death is also quite huge. A lot of children, in fact, majority of them actually die on their first day of life. As they are coming into this world, they're already saying bye-bye to us. These are not acceptable statistics. These are statistics that should make us to be very, very sad. And of course, even the older children, about 500,000 of the older children above the age of 5 to 9 also died. So we are talking about under 5 children, we're talking about newborn children, we're talking about under 1 children. These are the age group that are dying, and that 5.2 million is a huge figure, and it is something that we have to do something about. And it is not just, I don't want us to see it as a UNICEF problem, as a WHO problem, as ATP problem. It is something all of us, parents, carers, everybody who cares about children, we should be involved. We should be asking questions, and we should be trying to find out, what can I do in my own way? If this is one child, that I will stop, because if all of us start saying I will do my best, then no child dies from my own household or in my neighborhood or in my city. Before you know it, we can actually bring down these 5.2 million statistics and make it next to nothing. And the reason why I'm so conscious and so uh where I'm so where I'm so confident, yes, that's what I'm looking for, that we can do this, is the fact that these cases are things that are preventable and treatable. In other words, we have the ways, we're not dealing with something that we don't know what to do about. We know what to do, we know how to do it. So all we need to do is that will, that commitment to do them, and everybody thinking and feeling that I am part of the solution and not just something the government have to do. What are the causes of death in our children under the age of 5? Preterm babies born before 37 weeks, they are very prone to dying, and they are the one that constitutes majority of the newborn deaths. Baby born before 37 weeks, and the complications that can happen with them. We also call about babies that didn't cry when they are born, birth asphyxia, and this is when we talk about having babies in settings where people know what to do. If a baby is not breathing, we have the concept of the golden minute, which means that baby, we have to do something straight away, before and get that baby breathing. But sometimes babies are born in places where nobody knows what to do, and baby it's not breathing, nobody know what to do, and then the child is going to die. And this is one of the causes of death of these children in the first day of life in the newborn period. What about other things that cause the death? I'm talking about the leading causes of death. Pneumonia, children having cough, fever, before you know they have fast breathing. And sometimes people say, oh, it's we don't take it seriously. With a lot of questions of cough and catarrh we answer, and we always have to remind people when to go to the hospital. Pneumonia still killing our children. And pneumonia is treatable. Pneumonia, most of them are caused by bacteria. We have antibiotics for pneumonia. Congenital anomalies. Okay, these are one of those ones that maybe we're not able to do anything about. Babies that are born with very serious malformation of their hearts or their brain and all that, but they're not the majority. They are just a few. Diarrhea. You can imagine diarrhea. All we need to do is give ORS, oral zinc, we can treat diarrhea. But diarrhea is still killing children. Children dying from shock and dehydration from untreated diarrhea. Malaria. In Nigeria, everybody can go and buy malaria drugs and treat themselves without even seeing a doctor. But yet, a lot of our children under the age of 5 are still dying from malaria, and also, so these are many more conditions like that. But the reason why I've mentioned the list of these most common causes is to highlight the point that these conditions are preventable and they are treatable. There's a way we can work with pregnant women to make sure that they don't have the babies born too early. We will go into that. That is actually going to be the main focus of my presentation today. But I just want to give us an introduction, because for those of you who are just joining me, I'm talking about how we can raise healthy children. We're talking about children who will not die before their 50th birthday. We're talking about children who will be healthy, who will eventually live a life that is fulfilling and be everything that they want to be. That's what we're talking about. But we can't even be talking about fulfilled life and children who are able to achieve all their potential when the children are not even alive. So the first thing we have to talk about is that the children have to be living first, and then we talk about how we can make sure they are living healthy, and then of course when they are healthy, then they can achieve their potential. So we are doing a lot the WHO, the UNICEF, organization like Ask The Paediatricians Foundation, we're celebrating 9 years. We've been on this journey for 9 years, trying to promote information, health information, educating parents, even going into the community at the grassroots level to support us in making sure that our children do not die and that our children live. Our children under the age of 5, they are the one at risk, and in our culture, especially in Nigeria, in southwest Nigeria, for example, people are not even sure that their children are going to live, so they will have many children because they are not sure how many of them are going to survive. That should not be happening. We should be having children and knowing that all our children are going to survive and nothing's going to happen to them. So the children under the age of 5, we've been working so hard to reduce the deaths of children. Yes, we have made progress. I'm not saying that it is all bad news. Initially, in 1990, it was about 12.6 million children that will be dying, before the age of 5 years, 12.6. So we're now down to 5.2 from 12.6. So we've gone halfway down, but that is just about 59% in how many years? So you can do the statistics. That's almost like 30 years. So that is still a lot. We are looking forward to it getting to zero. So the world is working hard. All these sustainable development goals, goal 3, which is what ATP also aligned with, is about reducing the deaths of children. And I'm not happy to say that there are 5 countries that account for 50%, more than 50% of all these deaths. Just 5 countries, account for half of all these deaths. So in other words, if we even focus on those countries alone, we can actually even have the figure. 5 countries alone account for 52% of all these under 5 deaths. And Nigeria is number 1. Very sad. And which is why ATP is here in Nigeria. It's our domain, is our launch pad, is our where we're registered. Nigeria is number 1. I mean, what a bad or shameful thing to be number 1 for. Of course, India, Pakistan are next to us, then followed by Congo and Ethiopia. In fact, between Nigeria and India alone, we cause 30%. We're responsible for 30% of deaths of children under the age of 5. Nigeria and India alone. Of course, we have huge population. But notwithstanding, in other words, we're even worse than countries that have wars, like Syria, like all those countries that have a lot of internal conflicts and all that. I mean, they don't even have as many children dying. So it is not something we are proud of, but it is something we are existing for, because our goal, our mission, our vision is to see that statistics dealt with, and we don't want to be in that figure. So that is what we do on ATP. And like I said, it is not just a government thing alone. All of us, all of you listening to me, you are part of it. And what can we do? How can we reduce the death of our children? Yes, we've gone from 12.6 to 5.2 in 2019, but we're looking forward to it going lower and lower, because as I've listed, the things that cause the death of these children, they are not highfalutin stuff. They are not things that we cannot deal with. Pneumonia, diarrhea, malaria, we can prevent those. We can treat them. Newborn deaths from preterm delivery, from birth asphyxia, from trauma, from congenital anomalies, we can deal with them. So these are the things that we need to deal with. So I'm going to go, I don't want to depress us further by talking about the problem. I think I want to go and talk about the solution. And the more we talk about the solution, and the more most of us are implementing the solution, then the best, the better we will get into reducing these preventable deaths of our children. So let's talk about how do we prevent newborn death. Let's start with the newborn babies. And when we talk about newborn babies, we cannot talk about newborn babies without talking about the mothers. The mothers are very important because they bring in the babies to the world. So the health of the mothers are so intrinsically linked together with that of the babies. So the care of our babies, or the prevention of deaths of babies, starts with the mothers. And when we talk about mother, we're talking about even the mother before they have their babies. Number one is before I go into antenatal care, we want to make sure that we're not even having pregnancy that we should not be having. Most of these pregnancies that ends up being complicated, and some of them the pregnancy should not have even happened in the first place. In other words, let's talk about family planning. In other words, want only those who want to have babies to have babies, not people who are just having sex for fun and they ending up pregnant. And some of them are trying to even get rid of the pregnancy. And of course, if they don't do it in a safe way, today I'm not talking about mother's death, but also can lead to maternal death, and also the babies too could be affected. So first and foremost, let's start with preventing unwanted pregnancies. So if you are a woman of childbearing age, you don't want to have a baby, please do family planning. Family planning are cheap. They are available in all our government hospitals, health centers. There are different options. There are those of say I don't want to take tablet. You can use condoms. There are male and female condoms. There are diaphragm, things that don't require you taking tablets or hormones. Of course, if you want to try the tablet, there's tablets. There is also injection. There are also implants. There are also IU coils that can be put in. For those of who are done with having babies, we can actually go for permanent contraception, male and female. The male can go for the tying of the spermatic cord, and the female can also go for the tying of the tubes. So we can do all this. So basically, let's of us start by preventing pregnancy that should not even happen in the first place. That is number one. Family planning, very important when we're talking about child survival strategies. I know that is not even directly the children, but it starts with that. So we want to make sure that we're preventing pregnancies that should not happen. Then the next thing is the pregnancy. So we want this pregnancy, mother, parents, and I'm talking about, we're thanking God that we're getting rid of child marriages. The other day, Sierra Leone, the women were celebrating that the government has now passed in a law that prohibits child marriages, and that is fantastic. And I don't even want to go into all that. So I just want to assume that those of us who are also getting pregnant, we are not forcing children, children below the age of 16, in fact below the age of 18, to be getting married and having children, because they are also prone to complications, and those complications will lead to them losing their babies as well. So we don't even want that. But even for those of us who are already 18 and above, we want to have our babies at the right time, and only when we are ready to have the babies. When we're not ready to have the babies, we want to make sure there is family planning, and that is done. Now let's talk about the pregnant woman. Now, when we're pregnant as mothers, and even fathers, because when somebody is pregnant in a family, the man and the woman, they are pregnant, okay? Because we require you men to support our women. No, antenatal care is very important. Remember the causes of deaths of the newborn babies: preterm delivery, birth asphyxia, congenital anomalies. So before even the mother should get pregnant, folic acid, very important. It's very important for mothers. I always recommend that all women of childbearing age just take your folic acid, because some of us in Nigeria, we live in a country where some of us don't plan our pregnancies. We just feel like, I'm married, I can be pregnant anytime, and we just get pregnant. But ideally, we should plan our pregnancies, and we should be in an optimum state of health before we even get pregnant. And when I say optimum state of health, nutrition, no, our blood is not low. We are taking all the necessary nutrients. And folic acid is especially important, because remember I mentioned congenital anomalies as one of the causes of high death rates in in newborns. So when we don't take folic acid, babies are prone to having all these congenital anomalies. And so things like spinal bifida, things like abnormal brain malformation, those kind of stuff. If we take folic acid, we can actually prevent some of them. And when we know we're going to be pregnant, we will avoid taking things like herbal concussions, all sorts of things that can, or even drugs. As a pregnant woman, you cannot just take any drugs. I'm not talking of only native or herbal concussion, even the regular doctor drugs. There are drugs that are not compatible with pregnancy or that will put that baby at risk of abnormalities when baby is being formed. And most of us don't even know when this baby are being formed. So it is important that we are taking precautions. Number one, we plan for pregnancies. We're taking our folic acid. We are eating well. Our blood level is not low. If we have any health issues, maybe those who are sicklers, those who have hypertension, those who have kidney problems, heart problems, you are seeing your doctors so that they make sure that their diabetes and all that, they make sure everything is well controlled during that period of pregnancies. If you are taking drugs for convulsions, epilepsy, there are some drugs we need to stop before you get pregnant, or you can't say when you're pregnant, we have to change something else. These are all things we need to do even before that pregnancy. Make sure that the pregnancy is in a safe environment. As the person carrying the pregnancy, the womb has to be safe for the baby. And then antenatal care, very important. Antenatal care is not just for us to go and sing and dance and talk and gist with our friends, fellow pregos or pregos, whatever you call them. It is a time for the doctors to make sure the baby is growing well. These are things that will prevent preterm deliveries, because preterm delivery is one of the leading causes of newborn deaths, because preterm babies born before 37 weeks, they are not ready for the outside world. They still need to be in that incubator in the womb, in their mother's womb. So that is the best place for them to be, so that their organs will mature well and everything. The lungs are mature. Everything is mature before they come out at 37 weeks. But if they come out too early before that 37 weeks, we have to start taking care of them, and the complications are so many. Some of them, no matter what we do, even with all the technology, advanced technology, we may end up losing them. And even when we don't lose some of them, they end up having very severe complications and disabilities, especially those born before 28 weeks and those born weighing less than 1 kilograms. So we really want mothers to go for antenatal care. I see a lot of mothers pregnant and 28 weeks, we just take it for granted, like, I've had babies before, there's nothing there, I will go at the last minute. Some mothers even present to the hospital unbooked. They've not registered for antenatal care. That should not be happening. And those mothers are the one at risk of complications, and no doctor has been checking them, no doctor has been taking care of them. And then they can have the babies preterm, and that baby is already starting their life fighting for their lives. And honestly, we still lose some of them. We don't win the battle for some of them. So, but all these are preventable. I'm not saying it's completely eliminated, but preventable by appropriate antenatal care. So if you're pregnant, please register for antenatal care. For first-time mothers who have other health issues, mothers who are older, above 35, please register with a doctor, a specialist, a gynecologist, obstetrician. That's the right person to register with, not a midwife, okay? But if you have had babies before and you don't have any other health issues, you're a very healthy, okay mom, you can register with our midwives, because our midwives are also trained on how to help you recognize when there are complications, and then they can refer you to the specialist. So what we call multipara, women that have had babies before, they can go to the midwives will be checking them, and if they see any complication, then they will refer you. And when you are having this, they should be checking for your blood pressure, checking your urine for sugar, checking that your PCV, your blood level is okay, making sure you are treated for malaria to prevent malaria, and taking care of everything to make sure that you carry your baby to 37 weeks and above, and you have your baby safely. So antenatal care, very, very important. And if you have complications already, or you have health issues, please, or your first time or your elderly mom, please register with the specialist so that they can monitor you closely. This will reduce preterm delivery, preterm births, and our baby will be fine. Now, once we gave birth to the baby, after the pregnancy has been carried on, the next thing is the delivery of the baby. This is another crucial period when most of the babies can also die. That first year of life is a battle, is very important, maybe the most important day of life, because that's the day you decide whether the baby is going to stay or the baby is going to go. So because of that, it's best the baby is delivered with all the right people around, all the right specialists around, people that knows what to do. Remember, I was talking about this golden minute. When the baby is born, they have to start breathing within the first 60 seconds. We want them breathing. If they are not breathing within that 60 seconds, we need to intervene. And people are already trained on what we call neonatal resuscitation or newborn resuscitation, or helping baby to breathe. Let's break it down to simple words. We have to help the baby to breathe, because birth asphyxia is one of the challenges that can also make babies to die in the first day or first few days of life. So pregnancy, delivery has to be supervised by skilled professionals. We don't recommend people going to the what they call them, traditional birth attendants. So these days we're also training the traditional birth attendants as well, because we need every stakeholder to be part of this journey of reducing this death. So we train everybody we can train, but preferably please deliver your children in hospitals or with professionals that are trained on how to deliver a baby, on how to resuscitate a baby. Not that they will just leave you and wait for, no, they have to be checking that the baby is still breathing. I mean, the baby's heart is still beating, and they are monitoring. If the labor is not progressing, they need to know what to do. They must have a link for emergency obstetric care. Like if this delivery is not going as planned, then do we need to do a cesarean section? Do they have to transfer your baby to the hospital where they can do an operation? All those things have to be discussed. These are things you don't leave to chances. You have to discuss that during your antenatal, and then when you go into labor, all those, if things are not progressing, this is now. No, people will say I'm laboring for 3 days. No woman should be laboring for 3 days. We need to be taking decision. If it's a woman that has had baby before, in 12 hours you've not had a baby, we need to take a decision. First time mothers, we give them longer, maybe 24 hours. We need to take decision. You should not be laboring for 23 days, or for 3 days or 5 days. No, you should be delivering your baby, and if it's not coming, we have to intervene. And those who are supervising your delivery must know what to do, because it's not just the baby coming out, it's the baby coming out crying, the baby coming out with their brain intact. So these are very important information for you to know. All right, so when baby is born, baby has to breathe. See, baby does not breathe, we have to breathe for the baby. Birth asphyxia is something that can cause death of newborns, but it is not something we can do as parents. All we need to do is to make sure we deliver, and we are with people that can take care of the babies, that know what to do. So as long as you are in a place where we know what to do, we will do the right things, and hopefully we can get baby to breathe. So maybe it's just as simple as just cleaning them, and once we clean them, then they are fine and okay. But some babies we may need to use what we call amber bag, bag and max to help them breathe. So maybe we even need to give them injections, so, but we need to know what to do. Pediatricians, midwives, gynecologists, all of us are trained in taking these deliveries, so in resuscitating babies. So we have to be there. But the problem is when nobody that can do that is there, then that is where the problem is. So birth asphyxia is one of the leading causes of death or even disability in babies. But if the baby is born in the right hospital or in the right center with the right professionals, then we can also reduce or eliminate those deaths. Babies that are born with congenital anomalies, all babies should be examined at birth, which is why, again, it is important to deliver in a hospital, because if we examine the babies at birth, then we can discover babies that have congenital anomalies. Some congenital anomalies like heart problem, sometimes there are some drugs we can give, or there are some things we should not do to help, So that is again why a baby should be delivered in a hospital where professionals can examine the baby. So once we examine the baby and we're sure the baby is fine, and then we can now make sure that we do the right thing. And if there are problems, we try and fix it. If we may not be able to fix all the possible complications that babies can have, but we can deal with some of them, and or refer the child to the right specialist to make sure that the child is fine. All right, I hope we are getting there. So we're still talking about, for those of you who may just be joining me, we're talking about things we can do to make sure that our children are born healthy. And I'm doing it in a approach of a life approach. I'm making sure that I approve I approach it from when the baby is in the womb to when the baby is born and all that. So that is what I'm trying to do right now. Okay, so we've talked about before the baby is born, pregnancy, and now we've talked about now that the baby has been born. We've talked about the making sure the pregnancy antenatal care is appropriate, and now we've also talked about the delivery of the baby, because that is also very, very important. So these are all the things that we should be doing to make sure that the baby is okay. All right. Now, after the baby has been born, the most important thing again that is essential for making sure our baby will live and not die is feeding of the baby. Obviously the baby is already breathing, all the resuscitation has gone. The next thing is feeding. And when we talk about feeding and child survival, it is breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is very important. I know, unfortunately, we live in a world where everybody thinks, there are lots of information and misinformation online. But I want to assure you that the best way to feed your baby for their survival, for them to be healthy, is to give them breast milk. And when we say breastfeeding, we're talking about exclusive breastfeeding. We want you to give baby breast milk only, because breast milk is not just food. Breast milk also contains a lot of agents that protect babies against infection. And babies in the first 1 month of life, they are so fragile. They don't have so much of their own immunity. But you as a mother, you've already, been exposed to see lots of germs. So you have a lot of immune antibodies and stuff. So what you do when you breastfeed your baby is that you pass your own defense. You pass it to your baby. So the baby is getting food, the baby is getting water, the baby is also getting protection, especially that first milk that comes out. We call it colostrum. It is actually the baby's first immunization. So it is so important that we exclusively breastfeed our babies, especially for those of us in Africa. When we start giving our babies water and all that, we're actually introducing germs, because some of these water are not even clean. Number two, the water takes space. So the baby doesn't have food, instead of the milk to take the space, there's water, then there's food, and the baby is prone to malnutrition and failure to thrive, and then in the process, we also introduce germs to them. So they are prone to diarrhea, they are prone to pneumonia. Remember, those are the things that kill our babies. So sepsis, whereas all these things can be prevented by us breastfeeding her babies, except the mother has maybe cancer and is on cancer drugs, or very severe metabolic condition, which are very, very rare. Those are the exception where we cannot say, okay, mothers cannot breastfeed. But majority of us, 99% of us, can exclusively breastfeed our babies, and we can do it. And it is not just because whether it's fashionable or it is not fashionable, because the pediatricians love it or not. We're talking about child survival here. We're talking about children living. We found that breastfeeding babies exclusively will take out 800,000 of those deaths of the babies under the age of 5. So you can imagine that. So I've talked about all the children, I say about 2.3 of them, 2.4 million dying in the first month of life. Just breastfeeding the babies all those tests, let's even take it to including those ones of children under the age of 1 year, just breastfeeding our babies exclusively will remove almost 1 million of those tests. And this is why we promote exclusive breastfeeding. This is why we talk about it. In first week of August is our breastfeeding week, World Breastfeeding Week. We are going to come out again and we're going to talk about it. And I know a lot of you have challenged Dr. Baby, why do you always like to talk about exclusive breastfeeding? Why do you want to make those of us who don't exclusive breastfeed our baby feel bad? No, I'm not trying to make you feel bad at all. I actually want your baby to live. I want the children to survive. I know that almost 1 million children will not die only if their mothers breastfeed them exclusively. So why am I not going to talk about that? And why am I not going to promote that? Because I'm not looking at it from whether you feel like it, whether it's convenient. I'm looking at it from the fact that these 5.2 million deaths that we are trying to bring down, we can achieve almost 1 million of them cut off straight away only by a simple strategy of just exclusive breastfeeding. That is where I'm coming from. And this is why we promote exclusive breastfeeding. This is why we celebrate World Breastfeeding Week. We are celebrating something that will make sure our children do not die. And this is why we need you to join us and make sure you are breastfeeding your baby exclusively and promote it. Some of you will, some mothers want to actually breastfeed their babies, but the other mothers, especially the grandmothers, apologies, and maybe I'm not apologizing. I don't think I should apologize. Most of the women surrounding them are the ones telling them, oh, don't bother, just go and do formula, don't kill yourself. No, let's look at it from the lives that we're going to save. We are going to save a lot of babies by encouraging and supporting their mothers. I'm happy that we're beginning to come back again with the baby-friendly hospital initiatives. We want all mothers to be supported to breastfeed their babies. That is what we do, and we're always going to support it. And we are never going to promote formula feeding, never, because we are looking at children surviving here, and we know that when mothers exclusively breastfeed their babies, the children are going to survive. 1 million children, almost 1 million children are not going to die because of just exclusive breastfeeding. So because of that, we're going to keep promoting it. And so I want us to see that as stakeholders, because it's very easy for government to say, please exclusive breastfeed your babies. We are the one that are going to breastfeed the babies. So if we don't breastfeed the babies, all those saving that would have saved from exclusive breastfeeding will be lost. And that is why we're having this conversation. I may be coming on strong on it, but it's very important because we are after saving our children. So exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life. And after 6 months, of course, we keep breastfeeding. But at that point, breast milk is no longer going to be enough, and then we need to give our children other food. And again, nutrition is very important. And when we're talking about nutrition, it is not about breaking the banks. We don't need to go to the bank. I mean, we don't need to spend all our money. We don't need to buy expensive stuff from the supermarket. The same food we eat in our house, the same thing you have in your kitchen, that is what we need to give our babies. So we don't need to buy anything in the tin. We don't need to buy any particular brand of so-called baby food. Food is food, the same food you have in your house. All we need is the knowledge of all the kind of food we should give in, making sure we know that this is carbohydrate, this is a protein, animal protein like your fish, your chicken, your crayfish and all that, plant protein, your beans, your melon and all that. Of course, our fruits, our veggies, the fats, the palm oil and all those things. And then, of course, our breast milk is still dairy. And of course, you want to give other milk, you can as well after 6 months. So, but we need to know this is how I mix it together. These are the different classes of food. This is the quantity of food I should be giving my baby at 6 months. Not giving them so-called junk food, the pastries, the biscuits, and all those stuff, or all those sugary juices in the shops. No, giving them healthy food, healthy fruits as snacks. When we have that understanding and we keep breastfeeding, then nutrition is very important, because majority of children will die. 50% of them, no matter what else kills them, malnutrition is the underlying cause. In other words, the child is already compromised because of malnutrition. Malnutrition makes children's immunity to be low, okay? And so once a child is already have low immunity, then a little malaria, the child is gone. A little diarrhea, the child is gone. A little pneumonia, the child is gone. But if a child is already well nourished, exclusive breastfeed for 6 months, I'm giving the appropriate complementary feeds. Even if the child has malaria, that child will have his own immunity to resist and to be able to uh, fight, the infection or whatever, and so the child will be able to survive because the child already is strong. So that is why nutrition is so important. Even though malnutrition is not the direct killer, but it's the underlying cause of death in children. And that's why pediatricians were always so we always want the babies measured. We're always after the weight of the babies. Every time we see them, we are measuring them. We're checking their nutritional status because we know that a child who is well nourished, then the child is able to fight on his own, no matter what the infection comes their way. But if the child is already malnourished, even the little infection that will not touch anybody will just take the child off. So nutrition, exclusive breastfeeding, and the appropriate complementary feeding, very important. And of course, we are measuring these children growth monitoring, growth promotion. We want to make sure that their weight is okay. That is why every time, is my baby's weight okay? Yes, it's important. That's why every time you go to hospital, we measure the weight, we plot it, and they should be doing that, because I've seen some of us telling us, oh, they say we can't weigh your baby today. No, it is important, and it's not just for them to weigh. We must interpret the weight. We must plot it on the graph. Is it going up? Is it staying the same? Is it coming down? So that if there's anything going wrong, it should always be going up. If it's not going up, there's a problem, and then we need to deal with it quickly before it gets to the point of the child succumbing to malnutrition and death. So this is why it's important. So I've taken three things together: the exclusive breastfeeding, growth monitoring, and adequate nutrition. These are important ways to keep our children healthy, and these are things we should be doing. These are things we should be concerned about. I'm happy for you to always ask us whether your baby's weight is okay. You have your chart. We have apps these days that you just put the weight, the age of your baby in, the date of birth, whether they are male or female, and you put the weight, and it will tell you straight away your baby's weight is fine or not. If it's not, they will tell you have to see your doctors or your pediatrician. These are important things we need to do. And of course, let's go straight on to immunization. So we talk about nutrition. The next important thing to keep our children healthy is immunization. Immunization, one of the most successful public health strategies. All these killer diseases, some of them we have vaccines against them. No child should die from measles. No child should die from polio. No child should die from pneumonia. We have vaccines. So we have vaccines against tuberculosis. We have vaccines against hepatitis. We have so many vaccines. These vaccines are free. Okay, so all we need to do is to take our children to the health centers and get the immunizations. They would have given you a card and they would have listed the immunization. They would have written the dates. The one we give at birth, the one we give at 6 weeks, the one we give at 10 weeks, the one we give at 14 weeks. All these things are already there. So all we need to do is to just take our children there and do it. And then our children will not have those particular infection or those particular diseases that vaccines are able to protect against. So these are things that we should be doing. All right. And now in addition to vaccines, then there are some certain conditions that we need to know what to do. Of course, hygiene is very important. Hygiene, especially when for conditions like diarrhea, we need to make sure we have vaccine like rotavirus that can protect against diarrhea, but it is not all diarrhea, that we have vaccines against. So that is where hygiene is important. Let's make sure that the water that our children are drinking is boiled water. Don't rely on this so-called pure water. Most of them are not pure. Most of them are made by fraudulent people at the back of the house. So please boil your own water or use chemicals like water guard. We just recently had a cholera outbreak in Nigeria, in Lagos specifically. So it's from contaminated water. Poor hygiene, these are preventable. So let's make sure we boil the drinking water for our children. Let's make sure we wash our hands. Let's make sure we safely and properly dispose of what they call them, of waste products, the feces and stuff like that. Let's make sure we do it properly. That will protect our children from things like diarrhea. Just taking care of water, taking care of hygiene, proper waste disposal, that will take care of it. Then malaria is another thing that tends to kill our children, and we can prevent malaria by making sure our children sleep under insecticide treated nets, long lasting insecticide treated net. That will, not just the net preventing the mosquito, that is stage one, but the net is already impregnated with chemicals. So as soon as the mosquitoes land on those chemicals, they just die off. So that will make sure the children don't get bitten by mosquito. And as long as children are not bitten by mosquitoes, they are not going to have malaria. And as long as they don't have malaria, they're not going to die. Children below the age of 5 are prone to having severe malaria. Most of us have malaria and we're still going to work as adults. That is fine. But for children below the age of 5 and for pregnant women, they are prone to having what we call severe malaria. These are the malaria that can kill children. The next thing they're having fever, the next thing they're having convulsion, the next thing we're in the hospital. So we want to prevent that, and that is why we say we should make sure our children are sleeping under long-lasting insecticide treated mosquito nets. However, in some other cases, the children can also we do what we call seasonal malaria chemoprophylaxis. There are certain parts of the country where we give children drops, like from age of 3 months to 5 years. They give them some tablets to take so that when this malaria season is going to be high, we kind of give them drugs to prevent malaria. Again, it is also parts of making sure our children not having malaria as well. So these are things that we can do to protect our children from malaria. All right. Okay. So I've been talking about all the things that we can do for our children in terms of protecting them and making sure that our children are healthy. This is what we do on ATP, and this is why we're revisiting this topic. We want our children to live, and we don't want our children to die. And so, another important thing, which it may not seem like an health issue, is education, which is also very important for us. And I think that if there's anything we do on ETP, it is health education. It's really health education for our mothers, okay? It's actually for all parents, okay? But we tend to focus on our mothers and our women because we all know that the mothers are the ones that are the main carers of our children. Okay, that's not a spite on our fathers. We promote both health education for parents, fathers, mothers, and in ATP, 75% of our members are mothers, 25% are males. So we do have quite a significant number of males. But because we know that women are the one, carrying the pregnancy, bringing babies, so breastfeeding. So women are the ones that tend to have these babies with them most of the time. So education of the mothers very important. We find out that women that are educated, their children tends to be survive better, than women that are illiterate. So, which is why it's important. Now, when we talk about education, it's not just the school education; it's also about having the right information. Because sometimes I've seen even so-called graduates with a university education still take decisions, about the health of their children based on information given to them by maybe grandparents that maybe people from the villages that don't even have any education at all. So it is not enough just to go to school. It's about having the right information when it comes to health issues, and this is what this ATP is going to give you for free. Okay, we want to make sure we empower parents with the right education, with the right information. And one of the things I've learned from ATP when we do our anniversaries and we ask for feedback is a lot of parents do give us lovely feedback to say, I used to do this and that, I used to make these errors, I was giving teasing powder, I was doing this and that. But now, because I've joined ATP, I've learned and I've stopped doing that. And now my second child or my third child, no problem, they're doing well. I've seen people that have lost their other children, but because now they join ATP and they have the access to the right education and right information, then the children are alive and doing so well. And I've seen children who could have died, but because people post their pictures and we were able to give them the right information, education, and they were able to also follow it and implement it, then the children lived. So these are very, very important information. So please get yourself educated. And in this 21st century, ignorance is not an excuse for anything, because we are loaded with information, but we are loaded with so much information. But I'm also sorry to say we're also loaded with a lot of misinformation, especially on social media. So in as much as I want us to be educated and have the right health information, please make sure you know the source of your information. Don't just take any information you see posted on social media, on TikTok, on any website, and run with it. You get a lot of misinformation. We have people that are anti-vaxxers. We have people that spewing lots of misinformation online. So please make sure you get information from the right source, which is why we say ask the pediatricians for our own group. We have a group, we have a podcast, we have a website. You can get health information. And if you are not even sure, ask us. We will tell you what to do, all right? But you can also check hospitals' websites, government's website, UNICEF website, WHO website. These are the right places to get the right information. Don't just go by one influencer on social media, one mother come and say this on social media. You're just going to get, the number of misinformation I see on social media is alarming. It's an epidemic on its own. In fact, this is why we started ATP 9 years ago, because I see so much misinformation. Mothers trying to help other mothers, but they are giving them the wrong information and on different kind of information. There, somebody is more confused at the end than at the beginning. So, which is why we have a platform like this where you can ask your health questions and all that. So, I've been talking to us today about raising healthy children. I've talked about what we can do before pregnancy, during pregnancy, antenatal care, during delivery, after the baby has been born, and we've talked about all the things we can do. These are not highfalutin things: exclusive breastfeeding, immunization, hygiene, regular hand washing, growth monitoring, knowing what to do for basic things, preventing malaria, preventing infections, knowing when to go to the hospital when the children are sick on time, having the right health information. These are things you can do. Government do not need to do all that. You can do everything I've mentioned. Everything. Government is there to make sure that we think about the policy, we make sure the health centers are there, we make sure the immunizations are there. But our home role is to get those resources and use them. And once we do that, most of our children will live and will not die. And our goal on ATP is to ensure that all our children live and do not die. So I hope that you've learned from this. But if you have any questions for me or on any health issues as um okay, so thank you so much for listening to me. If you still have any questions, please remember to post it on our Facebook group and I will answer them. My colleagues are also there. And I want to thank you for supporting ATP. And if you are happy with what we do, please support us, buy our raffle tickets, and share your stories with us. Share your stories, join us for buy the ticket to support us, to support all the programs we're doing, be part of our anniversary, and hopefully on Saturday we're going to be having our ATP Day celebrations and award ceremonies. We want you to be part of it, but more importantly, share the news, share this information. As long as any child is surviving and no child is dying, because you share the right information with them, you are really helping ATP. You are helping us to promote the health education information, which is what we are for. And thank you so much. And we look forward to doing this more. And like I said, until no child dies from preventable causes. So have a wonderful, wonderful day. And it is bye from me. Bye bye.
Are you a mother, father, or you are involved in caring for children? If yes, then listen to Ask the Pediatricians every Thursday by 10 a.m. for insightful discussion on popular child health topics such as dangerous child health practices, immunization, infant feeding, developmental milestones, and so much more. You also get to ask questions on these topics and listen to answers to real-life child health issues by a pediatrician. Ask the Paediatricians Foundation is devoted to health education and information of parents and caregivers of children in the community to support you in raising healthy children. Don't miss Ask the Paediatricians with Dr. Gbemi because it's informative, educative, and interactive. Ask the Paediatricians Hour, the program for caring parents.